So it seems like practice makes progression. Because you mentioned like doing it 10,000 times.
Right.
Like you were able to flow off the hip right now on a quick turn of a dime to be able to turn into pivot into that character of like, hey, my name is Henry Crockett, and this is what I have.
Right. You have to look in the mirror every day and speak to yourself.
7 years ago, I started my first business and made my first $1 million within 18 months. I took that knowledge that allowed me to experience freedom, and I share it with others so that way they can experience their success. Now I own and operate the fastest growing marketing agency in the nation. I write books, I speak on stages across the country, I'm surrounded by the top 1% of business owners, and it's because of one understanding. To win in life, you just need to be better than you were yesterday. Welcome to Progress Daily with Andy Audate.
Welcome back to another episode of Progress Daily. Today I got Henry Crockett in the building. Man, I'm so excited because with Henry, look, just the way that we met, we're going to recap on that story real quick. You said you thought that I was the cleaning crew. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I didn't see you. I saw your assistant, and I seen another like a body going into the break room. And nobody goes in the break room at 12 a.m.
Besides the cleaning crew?
Right. So, I mean, I'm always usually the only person ever in the building after hours. So to see other parties, and I'm thinking, dang, did they switch up? Okay. I need to go ask them if they have found my debit card, because they sent me a text saying they found my debit card.
Where, okay.
So I went to go ask about that. And I was like, oh, you guys aren't a part of the cleaning crew? And she was like, no, we're not. And then she was telling me how you guys had just moved in down the hall. So, and she mentioned you guys were involved with like videos and music and all those things in one. And I'm like, my brother and them are in there producing beats right now in the conference room.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, for real? Come on, come down, come check us out. And then obviously she ran me down to come meet you.
So down the hall, I'm hearing this thump, thump, thump. I'm hearing music bumping. But me and my team, we were questioning like, hey, what is going on? We have no clue.
Right.
We have no idea what's going on. We just moved into the building, and we're setting up our studio. Now, once you came into the studio, man, you showed up powerful. First of all, when you came into the office, you showed up powerful. I said, man, who is this brother?
Appreciate that.
Who is this brother? What has he done? Because he walking around like he's experienced. He's walking around like he's knowledgeable, but he walks around with a humble chip on his shoulder. And so I wanted to get a little acclimated with you, but not only just me, but I want to also share with my audience who you were and what you've accomplished.
Okay.
So what I know you from the outside is, hey man, you're the CEO of the Business Minded Society, and in addition to that, you run a fast-growing State Farm agency. We've done enough research and we discovered that. But besides running, let's start with the agency, and let's say, how did you get in there? Because on the front end, on the surface, that's what it looks like.
Right.
Like you're running the State Farm business. But let's dive in deeper on how that all became. So how did you even start the business in the first place?
I got into insurance on accident, actually. Just being an entrepreneur at the time, I was looking for a new opportunity.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy who owned an insurance company at one time. Okay. And I had a lot of free time, so I was just like, man, I'll refer people to you. So I was referring insurance customers for him. And
were you getting paid on these referrals?
Yeah. So he's putting me on his payroll, but I was getting a little check. It was just for fun. So for me, it was just like one of my 7 sources of income, right?
Okay.
It was just like, okay, I make $1,200-$1,300 a month, thought nothing of it.
Right.
And then one day, because he was a friend of mine, he wanted to show bragging rights.
Mm-hmm.
So he brought me in his office and said, hey, let me show you something. And I'm like, okay, what's up? And he turns his screen and shows me his monthly paycheck of $45,000.
Dang. Okay.
And I'm thinking,
personal income?
Yeah, his income. Well, I mean, it was what the business made, but I mean, there's not a lot of expenses in this world.
Okay.
So he turns his screen and shows me this check. And I'm thinking to myself, man, you owe me $1,100, bro.
Okay.
And you showing me this.
Right.
And he was arrogant about it instead of being humble. The way he was kind of showing it was like more of a brag off. And I was doing well at the time, but not through insurance. I got up and left. I never came back and picked up my check. I picked up the telephone and said, I need to start an insurance company.
So did you call, how does that process even work? So like did you call State, like I know I own cell phone stores, and that's why I know about the franchise model, but I would have to call a master dealer, so someone else, and go up under them.
Right.
Is that how it works with State Farm?
With State Farm, it's not a franchise, so to speak.
Okay.
What they're more or less like an electee program, so they basically go out and elect agents. So typically, you have to have some sort of insurance background experience. They want a college degree and things like that.
Okay.
I was blessed not to have any of those, but to be able to have the business acumen and basically being able to communicate well, I was able to surpass well in their interview process, and the rest was history, man.
Oh, so you can't just buy in?
No, don't matter how much money you have.
Okay, gotcha. So you can't just buy in. So you got to go through like an interview process to see
Correct.
if you can have your own agency.
Because with State Farm, they actually fund you. So like this
Oh, do they?
process is probably every bit of about $160,000,
And they take care of
and
it.
they incorporate a lot of that stuff. Yep. So starting this is more or less based on who you are, not what you have. So that's why there's always big high praise about State Farm agents in general, is because money is not the source of selection. So
When you going in and running this business, right? The fact that you don't have a college degree, right? Did you go to college at all?
I took 3 college classes. Yes.
3 college, and when
Yeah.
you dropped out?
No, I just signed up for 3 college classes.
Okay, so 3 college classes, so you don't have the degree.
Correct.
What do you think it is about you that got you to a position to be able to surpass other people who may have the college degree or may have the money but never got the opportunity to open up their own agency?
A lot of times it's the drive. So for me, even getting the 3 classes was because a gentleman told me I needed to go to college. So I took that opportunity and tried it. He actually wrote me a check to go. He liked me that much when I interviewed with him for a job that required a degree. When he found out I didn't have a degree, he wrote me a check and told me to go to school. I took 3 classes. After those 3 classes, I looked back at it and I thought to myself, I have more experience in the real world than any guy coming out of college. I don't care what they taught you in school. In the extent of those 4 years of college, I feel like I have 12 years of experience right here in the real world on things to do, how to incorporate it, how to speak, etc. And when I was in class in college, I felt like the only thing they were teaching me, even in my business entrepreneur class, was how to work for somebody. So it just didn't fit my mold. Like I can't sit around and study that long. So because of that, for me, I feel like it was just my drive, my ability to just say, I'm going to go out here and make things happen, even when there isn't a paved way for me. I'm going to cut the grass, I'm going to cut the trees, I'm going to, pave the road, and I'm going to create my own lane. And I've been able to do that in pretty much every facet of my life, so it's worked out.
So where does that drive come from?
I've been on my own since I was 16 years old. My mom passed when I was a teenager.
So I hear that.
And for me, I felt like her only wish in life and her only hard work in life was to make sure I succeeded.
Yeah.
And when she passed of a heart attack, and they put it on stress. And I felt like I was her biggest stressor, because she wanted to make sure, I'm from Washington.
Was it like finances stress, or was it like you was a troublemaker?
It was probably a multitude facet of them all, right? I'm from Washington, D.C. In my area, my friends, we did things we weren't supposed to do at times. We found ways to earn an income that may have not have been the most, economic fashion for any kid to be having to go through. And so there were a lot of stressors, but for the most part, I pretty much stayed out of major trouble. But, her stress was the trouble around the corner type thing, because my grades weren't that great, things like that. So after she passed, I felt like I was her biggest stressor. So I just committed myself after her passing to change those things. I went from a 1.3 GPA to a 3.6.
Okay.
I graduated high school overall with a 3.33, and that's after having 2 years of 1.0s. So I pretty much pushed my GPA all the way up.
So you had it all in you to begin with. Like you already had it.
It was always there.
Yeah.
It was just not applying myself, and I think a lot of people realize that the application is the hardest piece, right? How to apply things. Like you may have a great idea, and it becomes an idea, and you think it's perfect, and it just sits in your mind.
Yeah.
And the application of things is what it is. And for me, I think my drive at that point was just knowing I've been doing this on my own for so long. I'm all I have. And then in time, I was blessed with a daughter who's 13. And I look at her and I think I never want to see her have to experience any questions on how she's going to be able to do anything. If she decides tomorrow she wants to go to college fund is paid for.
All right.
If she decides tomorrow she don't want to go to college, she wants to do something else instead, that's paid for. And,
so when we look back at your upbringing, right? 16 years old, that tragic event took place, but you have this complete turnaround in school, right? The academic world. Now, I know for me, I had a similar experience as far as the academic turnaround on my 12th grade year, but I realized it was because of a system. Like, I had a process that I used every single week in school for the 30-so weeks that we were in school that allowed me to get the honor roll and so on and so forth. And I still use that to this day. So if you go to my desk, you'll see that same system of how I lay out my workload and so on and so forth. But I realized for me, it was a process. Did you have a specific system or process that allowed you to go from 1.0 to 3.33?
I wish. Like, I admire you even saying that, because I wish I had. That's the one thing that to this day I still lack, is an outlined process. Maybe starting off so young, I've been winging things.
No, but I'm just trying to make sense of it. Like, you're saying that you go from 1.0 to 3.33.
I just tried, bro.
Is it just like, hey, I just hustle? Like, what did you do? What did your books look like? What did your notepads look like? And my real question is, did that process end up being used in your adult life and business?
For me, it was more or less the commitment to actually doing the work. Like,
okay.
When I was failing, it had nothing to do with my ability to comprehend the work. It was just truly going home and never touching my backpack and walking straight outside and hanging out with my boys and playing sports and doing those things. And after that event, it became open your notebook, read your paperwork, fill it out, answer the questions, turn in the paper. Why are you not turning in the work? Like, all those things that my mom used to always say in my head, we're now rescinding all the time. Why can't you just turn in the work? So that became my new commitment. Like, do the work, turn in the work. When it turned into my professional world, it just then became, my mouthpiece has always been my successor. So what I've done now is I've basically hired all my weaknesses, right?
Okay.
I have a personal assistant now, which I'm trying to hire a second one as we speak. But I have a person who, plans out my schedule, who outlines, calls and things that need to be made so I can get those calls in and out throughout the course of the day. Because if it's left up to me, 95% of the people in the world probably never get a call back. And it's not because I'm disregarding them as a phone call. It's just because I don't have that system that you referred to as far as that process that allows me to say, this is what I need to do at this time, this time, this time, and this time, and follow those steps accordingly. Now, I'm very processed for other people. I know how to delegate processes, but I'm still struggling a little bit with creating my own process. Like, I have no daily routine. I wish I did, but I don't.
Gotcha. Okay, sweet. So I understand that. Now, let's transition back to the adult life.
Okay.
So you graduate, man. So is that 3.33 in honor roll status?
Yep.
Okay, then you go to college, and you go to college.
Well, I didn't go to college till I was 30.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there was a little gap.
Correct.
So there was a little gap between you graduating and then getting to college.
Correct.
What were you doing in that gap?
I was in the car business.
Selling cars?
Yeah.
Okay. You were a salesman, or you owned a dealership?
I started off as a salesman.
Okay.
And then I just kind of worked my way up throughout the ranks of the car business in time.
Okay. So were you just flipping cars?
No, I was working at a car dealership.
Service?
Nope, sales. I was selling cars. Yep.
You were selling cars. So you always had this, like, in you, like the sales.
Oh yeah.
In you.
The mouthpiece.
So what I've learned from you so far is, like, in your life, attention drives results. Correct. Whatever you put your attention to drives results. So when you put your attention on the streets and hanging out with the homeboys, that's the results that you were creating. Yep. But then when that experience happened with you at 16, you put your attention in your school, you drove results.
Correct.
Now, how were you as a salesman? Were you good, or were you average?
I got records in the car business.
Oh, you got records. Okay.
Yeah, so I was the youngest sales manager at the dealership I worked at. I was promoted to sales manager at 24. I was a finance manager in the car business as well. Then I moved up to sales manager, where I actually ran a team of salespeople, and I did that for, of course, roughly about 12 years.
Wow. Powerful, man. I mean, I know selling cars is not an easy thing.
No, it's not.
So you doing that for 12 years, what did you learn in that space?
I pretty much learned how to communicate with people.
Okay.
Right? I created, if I have processes, my processes are my ability to sell. Like, I understand how to sell people.
Okay.
I feel like I can sell anybody anything. And it comes from understanding that people truly buy things based on a decision that they make. So in my course of being in the car business, I made it the customer's decision. And I basically learned the process. So I'm working on a book right now. It's called How to Get People to Do Anything.
I like that title.
It really drives on the process of how to get people to say yes throughout any sales process. And I understand to get them to say yes, you have to make it their idea. So first thing you want to do is learn a customer. learn about them, see what their likes and dislikes are, and then you take all of the things that they're most positive about, and you paint a picture of where those positivities fit into the product that you're offering them. And then in that process, I go to take that product away from them and give them a reason why they shouldn't get it. And usually the flip on them is
and then they tell themselves.
they tell me why they should. And then now the sale process is complete. I can step out the way and they buy.
So it's essentially you're persuading people, and you're using psychology to get them to sell themselves.
Correct.
And you learned all this in that 12 years of selling cars.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful, powerful. So then now that's why you became the State Farm agency owner.
Yep.
So now let's talk a little bit about behind the BMS.
Okay.
See, I have an event called the BMS. When you said BMS, I was like, wait, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So the Business Minded Society, what is that, and then how is it making an impact?
Well, Business Minded Society is pretty much a collective group. So what it is I go through a process of trying to not just start the next business for myself, but help start businesses for others. And that's where the society of it all comes in. And the Business Minded is basically getting others that have ideas for separate business ventures and moving forward. So we've collaborated in the music. My brother, he's been an engineer in music for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
He's done very well. So in time, I thought, you know what? I need to get him into the music world.
Yeah.
Because he's in school, he's in college. This is what his dream and his belief is. So we started our own music label called Style and Hustle. So what we've done with that is now we've incorporated, my brother now is the CEO of his own music company, and at the same time he's the engineer of that company as well, with a team that he's now built, and he's able to now catapult that same thing with his team and be a collective. In addition to that, I own an app which is called eStat Sports.
eStat Sports.
Yes, it's a sports tracker. So it allows you to be able to track the sports of an athlete from the sideline of a football field or basketball court, real time, and those stats are then streamed to the audience. So the audience can see.
Right on their mobile phone.
Right on the spot. So then the coach, instead of that book that they got to fill out, they can just put all the stats in through their phone. And it's almost like playing a video game, stat in the game. And then any parent, friend, family member can then go to their phone and see real time the stats of the game, the score of the game, and be able to follow their individual player. Phase 3 of that, I'm adding a person who owns a company called Sweat Equity Check, David Hill, and he's joined with eStat Sports to be able to create our recruitment program. So now we'll be able to take these athletes and be able to create them recruitment portfolios to allow them to be able to go to college and get them a free education through sports.
So we see that you're a multi-business, like you own multiple businesses, you're on multiple ventures. What do you see is like the real core necessities as far as your personality that you need, so that way my audience knows how to run multiple businesses?
I think for the most part is believing in yourself first.
Okay, believe.
Right? I think confidence in who you are allows you the ability to walk into rooms and not be afraid of who to speak to.
Okay.
Being that I am confident like that, I walk into a room. One of my best friends now is the VP of sponsorships for AT&T.
So when you walk into a room, let's start. When you walk into a room,
Mm-hmm.
like what is? Let's say you walk into AT&T,
Mm-hmm.
walk into AT&T, and because I was in the cell phones environment,
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like to walk into those rooms.
Right.
But what would you tell me to do? To like when I walk into the room, and you got the executive VP of sponsorships there,
Right.
then you have this person here who's at the round table, and so what do I do? What is specifically done?
First thing I would think is give yourself a preparation. Like, I've been prepared to talk to whoever I'm going to walk into a room with, regardless of who that person was. So my preparation on what I'm going to say when I introduce myself is almost always the same. In the car business, I think I probably learned that the most is knowing how to walk up to anybody. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Shaq Finley Honda. I'm Henry Crockett, and you are. And doing that 10,000 times throughout my life, it doesn't change who the person is.
Is it a mental thing? Is it like
it's
you
definitely
visualize
a mindset.
yourself?
Yep, I can see myself talking to anybody and everybody that I walk into a room to. So what happens when I walk into a room, I want to figure out who the big name or the delegate is or that person. So I may sometimes start with a smaller person in the room, shake their hand, make a friend, and get a little bit of upbringing information about the other people in the room.
Yeah.
And then I take some of that information and walk over to maybe the lead exec with confidence. How are you doing? My name is Henry Crockett. I have an app called eStat Sports. Here's what the app does. Here's how it provides the community. I would love to take an opportunity or time to sit down with you or maybe someone else in your team and be able to discuss maybe, future partnerships. Having a business card is important. If you don't have a business card, using your mobile phone instantly as a way of transmitting communication between two people. I'm kind of done without the card now because I like getting people in my cell phone.
Yeah.
But if you have a business card, sometimes it helps break the ice if you're a little not so confident in walking up to strangers and talking to them. But
so it seems like practice makes progression. Because you mentioned like doing it 10,000 times.
Right.
Like you were able to flow off the hip right now on a quick turn of a dime to be able to turn into pivot into that character of like, hey, my name is Henry Crockett and this is what I have.
Right. You have to look in the mirror every day and speak to yourself. If you aren't confident enough to walk up to yourself and say hello, then you can't be confident enough to walk up to the next person.
With all that confidence, what's your biggest fear then?
For me, my biggest fear is being lazy. My biggest fear is finding myself complacent.
What's a fear that you have that you are not in control of?
A fear that I'm not in control of. Dying. I think that's the only one. Outside of that, I feel like I could do just about anything.
Just about anything. So it's really that confidence to say, hey, I can do anything that I put my mind to.
Right.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And is it your childhood that created that? Is it your mother's experience that created that? Like what really ignited that? And the reason that I asked, I'm reading this book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by 50 Cent.
Right.
50 Cent Jackson. He talks about his mother's death is something that really propelled him into business. My lady, my girlfriend, her father passed away, and she shares with me like that mindset of recognizing that these challenges that were brought up to her at a young age, she could do anything. Right. 50 Cent said he could do anything because that biggest fear of losing a parent compared to losing a $150 million deal, losing this or losing that, there's no weight comparison.
Well, because parents create entitlement, not on purpose. And I'm not saying that to any parent in the world, but we want to provide for our child. We want our child to feel like anything they need, anything they want, come and ask me for it. You see, and that mindset that we create as parents to our children create a little bit of entitlement and complacency, right? So the normal kid who can always turn to mom and dad, they don't see the pressures of real life because mom and dad may have my back. And these are even moms and dads that may not be financially stable. My mom bought a Sega Genesis for me with penny rolls, but she figured it out, right? I still got a Genesis. So I didn't stress on what I could and couldn't have. Yeah. And then upon losing her, you realize that all of those entitlements that you felt like you had at that security blanket that was covering you up all these years was now vanished. And for me, I wanted to still be secure, so I had to figure it out.
So if recognizing that situation, that challenge could have propelled you to success or others to success, do you believe then someone should like mentally set themselves up to remove that security blanket? So that
Big time. I think everyone needs to, again, it's the world of entitlement. Like in the world we live in today, when you think of like Instagram, like the only thing you see on Instagram is success. You don't see the work, right? Like you don't see what it takes to become successful. You just pop up one day and you're successful and you're popping and everybody wants to be that. But no one thinks about the 25 songs, person performed where there was nobody in the crowd, but everybody wants to be a rapper. No one thinks about the 1,000 jump shots in the gym when nobody else is there. All they care about was when so-and-so scored 45 points. So on Instagram, all we see is the result. And I think that creates a bigger form of entitlement for us, is we just think tomorrow I could be a 45-point scorer. And it's the work ethic and behind the scenes that we all tend to miss out on. And for me, that was back to my childhood. My work ethic on actually doing the work part was why my grades looked bad like they did. So when I learned it, I just had to apply myself with the work itself. I found myself a lot more successful because I wasn't looking for a result anymore. I was just putting in the work. And I think for everybody, we just have to figure out ways to, put the work in. Stop going on Instagram and saying, I want to be that. Go on Instagram and go, what did it take to get there? And then focus on that part. If that's what you want to be James Harden, because I've spoken to James a couple times. He goes to the gym 4 times a day. It's a 24-hour day. He might still party, but he goes to the gym and puts an hour in. So 4 hours of his day is on jump shots and step backs.
That's why he's in that position.
Right. And no one sees that, though. We don't know that. Like, I would have never known that before, hanging a weekend out with him and realizing he keep disappearing to go back to the gym. Not knowing that, you just assume all you got to do is learn a Euro step and you'll be James Harden, too. And it's really not that simple. So for me, it's just everybody in themselves as far as what's the click The click is just telling yourself that eventually this is only going to be me. Why wait? Why not utilize having parents? Why not utilize having resources and taking those resources and then also pushing yourself to be successful?
Yeah. So now, how can someone be in a position, right, and mentally psych themselves up to have that security blanket vanish? I mean, you got people who are in their 30s still with that security blanket saying that, hey, no, I'm going to be taken care of.
Right.
You got people in their 40s still saying, so how can someone mentally psych themselves without having to go through a traumatic loss, mentally like tell me in steps, how can someone do that?
Well, I think first and foremost is if you do have a resource like a parent or anything, you have to take those resources that come to you, and then when you turn your back away from that resource, you have to think as if you have nobody to move forward.
So you're talking about if your parents are funding your lifestyle, you have to literally say, hey, man, don't give me any more money.
No, you don't have to turn the money away. But when they give
he's like, nah, don't turn the money away.
You don't. But when you get the money, you don't go get the money with things that you normally would use for privilege, right?
Okay.
If your parents are going to provide you with money or provide you with resources, you should take that money or those resources and turn around over here and discover maybe a project that you want to start that starts from ground zero again, right? If my mom is buying me Jordans all the time, maybe I'll take one of these pair of Jordans and try to flip them to somebody else. Because not only did I still got the money my mom gave me for the Jordans, but I made an extra $65 off the Jordan flip.
Right.
And now I'm going to go back and buy me another pair because I always got shoes coming. So I don't care if I got the red and white Jordan 12s. Because I can get the orange and blue ones or a color that nobody else has with the income and the parents and resources that I have. So if my mom bought me a pair of shoes for $225, I'm going to flip them to somebody else for $300. I'm going to go back and get me a pair of shoes I want for $225, and I'm going to throw $75 back into a bank account.
So it's not about, so what I understood is not about mentally putting yourself in a mental position of loss, but put yourself in a way that they can be your catalyst versus your crutch.
Correct.
Got it. So now what's next for you? What's next for Henry Crockett?
Well, the app is my biggest focus right now. Between that and the music, I truly want to streamline those into a position of where those are self-performing. Right now, the app still requires me to travel a lot and develop, resources and contacts. So I'm building a team for the app as we speak in the 17 cities. So when next year starts, we should be able to catapult this out like we really want to. And then in the music world, it's just kind of getting our artists heard, getting them recognized, getting the music out there, and just kind of touching strings, which I'll be talking to you about because you're a professional in that world.
So let's just say your business-minded society, completely done. State Farm, done. App, done. For some reason, you messed up on an NDA, you can't go back.
Right.
What would you do next?
I think I would just be a philanthropist, honestly.
Okay.
I would probably just be community activist and do things like that. I do have a nonprofit I have right now. It's called ASAP. It's called Academic Student Athletic Program, and it's basically designed to help kids improve their grades ASAP. And it's pretty much my life, right? Because I know how easy it is to turn from a 1.3 to a 3.8. And I actually had a kid of mine that, I was very close and dear to. He had a .86. And last year we got him all the way up to a 4.0. So he got a pair of Jordans as a reward, but at the same time, sometimes kids need a little bit of boost up or something to kind of promote their success.
Yeah.
So we got a car we're giving away this year. So I think for me it would just be, I would be a philanthropist, and I would just be in the community earning funds to be able to disperse back out and obviously make a living in the process.
That's powerful, man. Thank you so much for being on the show today, man.
Andy, I appreciate you, brother.
How can people get in touch with you, Henry?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's Businessman Swag, or you can pretty much just Google Henry Crockett. You can find me on Google. You can reach out to me any platform, Facebook, Instagram, or you can look up Henry Crockett Agency. Our office is in the same building as Andy, and we'd be happy to help out anybody we can.
Remember that the opportunity is in the show up. Not only did Henry show up physically, but he showed up powerfully. He was seen and he was heard. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next episode of Progress Daily with Andy Audate.